20. Black actors you didn't know passed away. Part 2. You knew their faces. You may not have known they were gone. One broke Hollywood's oldest barrier and became the first black man to win an Oscar for Best Actor. One didn't just play the future on Star Trek. She personally helped recruit real astronauts for NASA. One turned a boxing rival into the beating heart of a billion-dollar franchise. And one was only 27, a BAFTA nominee whose brightest work was still ahead of him. 20 remarkable lives, most of them lost quietly, with barely a headline. How many did you never know we'd lost? Stay to the very end, and subscribe to Secret Celebrity Stories, where these legends are remembered the way they always deserved. Sidney Poitier. Before Sidney Poitier, Hollywood lived by an unwritten but absolute rule. A black actor could serve the story, never carry it. Poitier dismantled that rule one film at a time. He was born on February 20th, 1927, in Miami, where his parents, Bahamian tomato farmers, had traveled to sell their harvest, and he spent his earliest years in poverty on Cat Island in the Bahamas, before arriving in New York as a teenager with a thick Bahamian accent and no connections at all. Casting directors told him his voice made him unusable, so he sat with a radio for months, patiently reshaping every vowel. In 1964, he became the first black man to win the Academy Award for Best Actor for Lilies of the Field. Then came 1967, perhaps the most extraordinary year any actor has ever had, when he appeared in the Heat of the Night, with Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, and To Sir, with Love, 3 films that forced a reluctant America to confront its own attitudes on race. Queen Elizabeth II granted him an honorary knighthood in 1974. President Obama gave him the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 2009, and he served as the Bahamian ambassador to Japan from 1997 to 2007, as well as his country's ambassador to UNESCO. When Denzel Washington accepted his own Oscar in 2002, he said, "I'll always be chasing you, Sidney," capturing the scale of the legacy better than any list of honors could. Sidney Poitier died on January 6, 2022, at 94, in Beverly Hills. He was the first to walk through the door, and in doing so, he made everyone who followed possible. Nichelle Nichols. In 1966, Nichelle Nichols stepped onto the bridge of the USS Enterprise as Lieutenant Nyota Uhura, 4th in command of a starship, respected as an equal, essential to the mission. For millions of black children watching American television, it was the first time they had ever seen someone who looked like them, portrayed as a person of authority and genuine future, rather than a servant or a punchline. She was born on December 28, 1932, in Robbins, Illinois, with a 4-octave voice, singing in Chicago clubs by 14, and touring briefly with Duke Ellington's orchestra before Hollywood ever called. Partway through Star Trek's first season, she nearly walked away, until, at a knock fundraiser, she met Martin Luther King Jr., a devoted Trek fan, who told her that her role mattered far too much to abandon, that she was showing children what was possible. She returned the following Monday. In a 1968 episode, she took part in what is widely remembered as the first interracial kiss on American broadcast television. Some Southern stations refused to air it, and she stood by the scene. But her greatest work came afterward. From 1977 to 2015, she partnered with NASA to recruit a new generation of astronauts, and Sally Ride, Guion Bluford, and Ronald McNair all came through the program she helped build. She did not merely portray the future on a soundstage. She reached into the real world and helped to staff it. Nichelle Nichols died on July 30th, 2022, at 89, in Silver City, New Mexico. The stars she spent her life pointing toward are still there, and so is the path she cleared toward them. Louis Gossett Jr. Louis Gossett Jr. began performing at 17, making his Broadway debut that same year, and appearing in both the stage and film versions of A Raisin in the Sun, alongside Sidney Poitier. He was there in Roots in 1977, the landmark miniseries watched by an estimated 130 million Americans across 8 consecutive nights, one of the highest-rated broadcast events in history. He was born on May 27, 1936, in Brooklyn, and by the time most of the public learned his name, he had already been perfecting his craft for decades in an industry that offered black actors few opportunities and even less imagination. Then came An Officer and a Gentleman in 1982. His drill sergeant, Emile Foley, relentless, exacting, and secretly invested in the very recruits he seemed to be tearing apart, earned him the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor, making him the first black man ever to win in that category. Iron Eagle turned him into an action star across 3 sequels, and television kept him busy for decades. From Boardwalk Empire to Watchmen, he won an Emmy for Roots and was nominated 7 more times, took a Golden Globe for the Josephine Baker story, and received his Walk of Fame star in 1992. Late in life, he founded the Eroticism Foundation, devoting his platform to civil rights education, because he never confused being famous with having a purpose. Louis Gossett Jr. died on March 28, 2024, at 87, in Santa Monica, of chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. He broke a barrier that had stood since the Academy first began, and then, in character, he left the door wide open behind him. Andre Braugher. Andre Braugher graduated from Stanford with a degree in theater, earned his master's from Juilliard, and spent his formative years performing Shakespeare in Central Park. A man who prepared for his profession with an almost scholarly seriousness the rest of Hollywood treats as improvisational. He was born on July 1, 1962 in Chicago, and made his film debut in Glory in 1989, alongside Denzel Washington and Morgan Freeman. But it was as Detective Frank Pembleton, in Homicide: Life on the Street, that he found his defining role, a 7-season NBC drama, still regarded as one of the most sophisticated police procedurals ever made. Pembleton was a Jesuit-educated Baltimore detective of volcanic intelligence and moral intensity, and Braugher played him with a controlled ferocity that won the Primetime Emmy for Outstanding Lead Actor in a Drama Series in 1998. Then his later career revealed the full breadth of his gift: comedy. In Brooklyn Nine-Nine, from 2013 to 2021, he played Captain Raymond Holt, a gay precinct captain whose deadpan dignity became the show's most reliable source of laughter, a character as far from Pembleton as possible, which he inhabited with the same total commitment, earning 4 more Emmy nominations. Across his career, he was nominated 11 times and won twice. His final performance, in the 2022 film She Said, about the journalists who exposed Harvey Weinstein, proved his dramatic power remained entirely intact. Andre Braugher died on December 11, 2023, at 61, after a brief illness. 11 Emmy nominations across a lifetime, and not once, in all that range, did he give a performance that failed to earn every bit of the honor. Carl Weathers. Carl Weathers walked into the audition for Rocky, read a scene opposite an unknown writer named Sylvester Stallone, decided the scene wasn't working, and announced that he could do far better if they found him a real actor to read against, having just, without realizing it, insulted the star of the film. He got the part anyway, and that story tells you nearly everything about the electric confidence he carried into every room. He was born on January 14, 1948, in New Orleans, played college football at San Diego State, and signed with the Oakland Raiders as a free agent in 1970, spending 2 seasons as an NFL linebacker before turning to acting. When Rocky arrived in 1976, Apollo Creed, the flashy, trash-talking champion who becomes Rocky's fiercest rival and closest friend, became iconic almost instantly. Weathers returned across 3 sequels, and when Apollo died in Rocky IV, audiences genuinely grieved a fictional man because he had made him feel so real. Predator proved he could hold his own among action stars. Happy Gilmore revealed a gift for comedy, and his fictionalized self on Arrested Development became a cult classic. Then, late in his career, The Mandalorian returned him to global prominence as Greef Karga, bringing a Primetime Emmy nomination and the chance to direct 2 episodes. Carl Weathers died on February 2, 2024, at 76, at his Los Angeles home, of cardiovascular disease. Sylvester Stallone said he could never have accomplished what they did with Rocky without him. Apollo Creed was written to be the antagonist, and Weathers quietly turned him into the very soul of the franchise. Richard Roundtree. In 1971, American cinema had never seen anything quite like John Shaft, a black private detective moving through New York who answered to no one, navigated both white and black worlds with total authority, and was, unmistakably, the most competent person in every room. Richard Roundtree did not merely play that character. He invented a grammar of cool that pop culture spent the next 50 years trying to imitate. He was born on July 9, 1942, in New Rochelle, New York, working as a model before he joined the Negro Ensemble Company and turned to the stage, which made Shaft his feature debut at just 28. The film cost around $1.2 million and grossed more than $13 million domestically, launching an entire genre and proving that black-led action films could be commercially unstoppable. The Library of Congress selected it for the National Film Registry in 2000. 2 sequels and a television series followed, and when John Singleton revived the franchise in 2000 with Samuel L. Jackson, Roundtree was right there, passing the torch without surrendering what he had built, and he returned again for the 2019 sequel. Across 50 years, he gathered more than 150 screen credits, from Roots to Seven to Being Mary Jane. And in 1993, he went public with a breast cancer diagnosis, at a time when men, and black men in the public eye especially, simply did not speak of such things, explaining, "Someone had to." Richard Roundtree died on October 24, 2023, at 81, of pancreatic cancer. Samuel L. Jackson called him the prototype, the best to ever do it, and that is simply the historical record. Michael Kenneth Williams. A razor attack outside a bar on his 25th birthday left Michael Kenneth Williams with a scar running from ear to chin, and where another man might have seen a career-ending disfigurement, he turned it into the most recognizable feature of one of the most compelling screen presences his generation produced. He was born on November 22, 1966, in Brooklyn, and was a dancer long before he was an actor. His first film role came because Tupac Shakur spotted him and cast him in Bullet in 1996. When David Simon cast him as Omar Little in The Wire, he handed an untested actor one of the most intricate characters ever written for American drama. A stick-up man who robbed only drug dealers, lived by an unbending code, was openly gay, whistled as he walked through the projects with a shotgun, and became one of the most beloved figures in television history. Williams played every contradiction at once without straining a single one. Boardwalk Empire gave him Chalky White, a different kind of power wielded with the same authority, and 12 Years a Slave and Lovecraft Country only deepened his range. Throughout his life, he spoke openly about his own struggle with addiction, never to draw sympathy, but because he understood that silence around such things costs lives, pouring that understanding into community work across Brooklyn. Michael Kenneth Williams was found dead in his Brooklyn apartment on September 6, 2021, at 54, from an accidental overdose. The role that defined him was a man who survived everything the streets could throw at him. The gifted actor who brought him to life was taken by something far quieter. Mary Alice. 50 years is a long time to sustain excellence in any field, and Mary Alice sustained it in one of the most unforgiving there is. Professional performance across stage, film, and television, emerging with a Tony Award, an Emmy Award, and a body of work that shows exactly what happens when real talent meets real discipline, and neither one ever relaxes. She was born on December 3, 1936, in Indianola, Mississippi, and built her craft on New York stages before moving into film and television with the command of someone who understood that the camera demanded everything theater had taught her, applied with a subtler precision. Her Tony came for her stage work, her Emmy for the acclaimed period drama I'll Fly Away. In Awakenings, in 1990, she held her own beside Robin Williams and Robert De Niro, in a film that asked its supporting players to carry enormous emotional weight without overwhelming the leads, and she did exactly that. Malcolm X placed her inside one of the most important historical films of the decade, and when The Matrix Revolutions needed someone to step into the role of the Oracle after Gloria Foster's death, inheriting a character of vast significance mid-trilogy, the filmmakers chose Mary Alice, and she honored what came before, while quietly making the role her own. She kept working nearly until the end, with the same devotion she'd shown from the start. Mary Alice died in July 2022, at 85, of natural causes. The tributes dwelt not on any single defining role, but on the sustained quality of everything she ever did, which was, in the end, the true achievement. Bill Cobbs. Bill Cobbs spent 8 years in the United States Air Force, worked at IBM, and sold cars in Cleveland. And he was already 36 years old before he ever set foot on a professional stage. Most actors who begin that late do not go on to build careers spanning half a century and nearly 200 film and television credits. Bill Cobbs built exactly that. He was born on June 16, 1934, in Cleveland, Ohio, and moved to New York in 1970, joining the Negro Ensemble Company and working alongside giants like Ossie Davis and Ruby Dee. His feature debut came in The Taking of Pelham 123 in 1974, a single line on a subway platform that his family and neighbors traveled to a theater to watch together, and which he later described with the same warmth other actors reserve for their Oscar nights. What followed was a decades-long masterclass in character acting: The Cotton Club, The Color of Money, and The Bodyguard, in which he played Whitney Houston's manager, along with The Hudsucker Proxy, Air Bud, and Night at the Museum, plus roles on The Sopranos and The West Wing. In 2020, he won a Daytime Emmy for the children's science series Dino Dana, his final major award, received at 85, which tells you everything about the endurance of the man. He never stopped. His final credited role came in 2023, the year before he died. "I enjoy what I do. I really enjoy it," he said in 2012. Bill Cobbs died on June 25, 2024, at 90, at his home in California. He found his calling at 36 and never let go of it. Roger E. Mosley. Roger E. Mosley was a licensed pilot before he ever became a television star. So when he was cast as helicopter pilot Theodore T.C. Calvin on Magnum P.I. in 1980, he brought to the role something no acting training could manufacture. He genuinely knew how to fly the aircraft his character flew. The production wouldn't let him do his own stunts, but every moment he stood near those helicopters carried the authority of real competence, and audiences felt it without knowing why. He was born on December 18, 1938, in Los Angeles, and built his career through the 1970s in film and television, before landing TC, a role he would play across 8 seasons and 162 episodes of one of the most watched dramas in American television history. TC was Magnum's best friend and most dependable backup, the voice of reason in a show that often operated at a pitch of cheerful implausibility, and Mosley played him with a warmth and physical presence that quietly assured you he could handle anything without needing to announce it. His friendship with co-star Tom Selleck was documented across decades as genuine and lasting. When the show was revived in 2018 with a new cast, Mosley returned in a recurring role, completing a circle that spanned nearly 40 years, and he remained active into his 80s, still working, still showing up. His death after a car accident in Linwood, California, felt especially cruel because of that undimmed vitality. Roger E. Mosley died on August 7, 2022, at 83. He flew helicopters, and he played a man who flew helicopters. Sometimes the performance and the person are genuinely one and the same. Clarence Gilliard Jr. Die Hard changed action cinema in 1988, establishing the template nearly every action film of the next 30 years would follow, and Clarence Gilliard Jr. was a quiet, essential part of what made it work. As Theo, the computer expert who cracked Nakatomi Plaza's security from inside the building while the villains operated around him, he brought a cool, unhurried intelligence that made the stakes feel genuinely technical. He was the man who could break into anything, and he played it with a stillness more unsettling than anyone firing a gun. He was born on December 24, 1955, in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, and built his early career through small television roles before his breakthrough in Top Gun in 1986, as the pilot Sundown. Die Hard arrived 2 years later, and then came the reversal that defined his public identity for millions. As Conrad McMasters on Matlock, the loyal investigator assisting Andy Griffith's folksy attorney, every quality that had made him effective as a villain, the sharp intelligence, the watchful attention, became the tools of a trusted ally. Walker, Texas Ranger, where he played Jimmy Trivette across 8 seasons alongside Chuck Norris, cemented him as a fixture of American network television through the 1990s. But for the last 15 years of his life, Gilliard quietly maintained a parallel career as a professor of film and theater at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, shaping the next generation with the precision he brought to his own work. Clarence Gilliard Jr. died on November 28, 2022, at 58. No cause was publicly announced. He had quietly built 2 complete careers in one lifetime, one before the camera and one for those who would step behind it. Stephen "Twitch" Boss. The nickname came from childhood, a boy who could not stop moving, whose body seemed to generate its own momentum. Stephen Laurel Boss took that restlessness and turned it into a career that touched millions across 2 decades, and his death at just 40 shocked an industry and audience who had watched him embody joy so consistently that the idea of private darkness seemed impossible to reconcile with the man they thought they knew. He was born on September 29, 1982, in Montgomery, Alabama, and studied dance at Southern Union State Community College and Chapman University before entering the national consciousness as a runner-up on So You Think You Can Dance in 2008. His hip-hop freestyle and a piece choreographed by Mia Michaels earned an Emmy nomination for choreography. When Ellen DeGeneres brought him on as a guest DJ in 2014, it was clear at once he was far more than a DJ. He became the show's emotional engine, the one who put celebrities at ease, who turned awkward silences into dance breaks, who seemed to genuinely love being exactly where he was. In 2020, he was promoted to co-executive producer, a role he held until the show ended in 2022, and he appeared in Magic Mike 1XXL and several step-up films. Stephen "Twitch" Boss died on December 13, 2022, at 40, in Encino, California. His wife, Allison Holker, said he lit up every room he stepped into. The distance between that shining truth and the private pain that ended his life remains one of the most important conversations his loss left behind, a reminder that the brightest light can hide a struggle no one sees. Max Julien. In 1973, The Mac arrived in theaters, and Max Julien arrived with it. His portrayal of Goldie, so specifically constructed, so completely inhabited, so suffused with a particular charismatic authority, became one of the defining performances of the blaxploitation era, and one of the most quoted, referenced, and imitated characters in Black cultural memory. 50 years later, people who weren't born when the film was made know exactly who Goldie is. He was born on January 14, 1933, in New York City, and was never content to exist within a single category. An actor, yes, but also a sculptor and a fashion designer. A man whose creative output refused the boundaries the industry tries to impose. The persona he built around the Mac rippled outward to influence not just the films that followed, but the aesthetics of hip-hop culture, the visual language of street fashion, and the way generations of Black men thought about self-presentation as a form of power. His later work in Def Jam's How to Be a Player in 1997 proved his charisma hadn't diminished with time, that the qualities which made Goldie iconic were never the property of a single moment, but of a specific kind of performer, one who understood that presence is a skill refined across decades. He was married to the actress Arabella, and they were together in Los Angeles when cardiopulmonary arrest took him. He had lived to watch the culture he helped create ripple outward across 5 decades, to see new generations discover the Mac all over again. Max Julien died in 2023, at 88. He made one character so real that the character outlived the era that produced him, a specific and rather beautiful form of immortality. John Beasley. There is a specific category of actor that Hollywood depends upon absolutely and almost never adequately acknowledges. The character actor who makes every scene he appears in measurably better without ever trying to dominate it. John Beasley spent 30 years being exactly that actor, gathering a filmography that reads like a tour through the defining genres of American cinema, and leaving audiences with the impression that the person they were watching had been living that life long before the cameras arrived. He was born on June 26, 1943, in Bald Knob, Arkansas. Came to acting relatively late, and built his career through the kind of sustained professional commitment that rarely generates headlines. Rudy, in 1993, gave him the Notre Dame groundskeeper, who becomes a surrogate father to Rudy Ruetiger. A small part he filled with such earned warmth that audiences believed this man had worked those grounds for decades. That capacity for lived-in authenticity was his fundamental gift. The Apostle, The Sum of All Fears, Walking Tall, and the Purge films showed a striking range across drama, thriller, action, and horror, each time with the same grounded presence. His recurring role as the town doctor on the family drama Everwood gave him his most sustained opportunity. A man the whole community turned to when they needed help, played with the natural authority of someone who had earned that trust over years. When he was hospitalized for liver complications near the end, his son Michael kept the details private. What matters is what he left behind. John Beasley died on May 19, 2023, at 79. Dozens of productions were quietly, measurably better, simply because he was in them, and that is the career he built, which is no small thing. Sonia Eddy. For 16 years, Sonia Eddy walked into the nurses' station on General Hospital and owned every scene she was in. Epiphany Johnson, head nurse, iron-fisted and warm-hearted at once, and absolutely unwilling to tolerate nonsense from doctors, patients, or anyone else, became one of the most beloved recurring characters in the show's 60-year history, and Eddy appeared in more than 540 episodes before winning a posthumous Daytime Emmy for Outstanding Supporting Actress in 2023, months after her death. She was born on June 17, 1967, in Concord, California, and studied theater and dance at UC Davis, earning her degree in 1992. But she was also, in real life, a licensed vocational nurse, a qualification that gave her portrayal of Epiphany a specificity and authority pure acting technique could never have produced. She understood the rhythms of a hospital ward, the hierarchy of a nursing staff, and the exhausted compassion that keeps medical professionals standing under impossible conditions, and all of it lived in her performance every episode. Before General Hospital made her an institution, she spent years as a journeyman performer, appearing in Seinfeld, Murphy Brown, Glee, and Desperate Housewives, with recurring roles on Fresh Off the Boat and Black Jesus, comedy, drama, and everything between, with the same easy facility. In December 2022, she underwent a routine elective surgery, was released, then readmitted days later, when doctors found an infection that became uncontrollable. Sonia Eddy died on December 19, 2022, at 55, and her friend Octavia Spencer shared the news. The tributes came from fans who said she had made them feel better about their own hospital visits, a specific and genuinely remarkable kind of legacy to leave. Ricky Harris. Ricky Harris understood something fundamental about comedy that many comedians take years to learn, and some never do. The joke lands best when it comes from a place of complete truth. His material was grounded in real experience, real community, real street life. Never a performed authenticity, but the genuine thing, shaped by flawless timing, and delivered by a man who had lived those conversations long before he repeated them to an audience. He was born on January 27, 1962, in Long Beach, California, and built his career through comedy clubs and small television appearances before landing the role that introduced him to a national audience. Malvo, on Everybody Hates Chris, the neighborhood fixture whose commentary on every situation was both absurd and completely accurate at once. Chris Rock's semi-autobiographical series required actors who could inhabit the texture of Brooklyn street life in the 1980s without slipping into caricature, and Harris brought exactly that. The neighbor whose observations cut to the heart of things while making you laugh before you'd fully processed what he'd said. His appearance in the Sundance hit Dope in 2015 proved his talents reached well beyond television comedy. The film's blend of social observation and genuine warmth was precisely the register he'd worked in his whole career. And he was, according to nearly everyone who worked beside him, one of the people on any set the other actors most looked forward to seeing, the performer whose presence lifted the energy of every scene. Cardiac arrest took Ricky Harris on December 26, 2016, at 54. The comedy world lost a voice that had been deepening for over 2 decades, taken when it still had so much left to say. Chance Perdomo. Chance Perdomo was only 27 and had already received a BAFTA Television Award nomination, one of the most prestigious recognitions in British television, for his lead performance in Killed by My Debt, a BBC film about the devastating human cost of financial hardship in modern Britain. That nomination was no courtesy extended to a promising newcomer. It was the industry's acknowledgement that something real and rare was happening in his work. He was born on October 19, 1996, in Los Angeles, to a Guatemalan Belizean father and a British mother, growing up between cultures and carrying that complexity into his performances. Killed by My Debt required him to inhabit a young man whose life was being crushed by forces he could neither control nor fully understand, a role demanding emotional precision that actors twice his age often struggle to reach, and he delivered every ounce of it at just 21. His later work on the Netflix series Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, and then on Gen V, the superhero university spin-off of The Boys, proved his range extended far beyond social realism. He could carry genre material, anchor an ensemble, and hold the screen in productions built around spectacle without losing the naturalistic quality that made his dramatic work so compelling. By every metric available to the industry, his best work was still ahead of him. A single-vehicle motorcycle accident in England, involving no other parties, ended his life in March 2024, at 27. The industry that had been watching his trajectory climb fell silent for a moment, and then the tributes came, full of the grief that attaches to talent, taken before it fully arrives. The BAFTA nomination was the beginning, never the peak. Moses J. Mosley. Moses J. Mosley arrived in the entertainment industry during a period when the old rules about who could build a career in Hollywood were shifting faster than at any point in the previous generation. He was born on August 13, 1990, and made his way from Georgia to Los Angeles with the kind of disciplined focus the industry demands and rarely rewards quickly, and he was building something real, accumulating credits, developing range, establishing a presence across multiple genres, when his life ended at just 31. His work on The Walking Dead introduced him to one of the largest genre audiences in television history. The show was a cultural phenomenon at the height of its run, and even its non-speaking roles required performers who could communicate character through physicality and presence alone, and Mosley brought both. His work on Queen of the South and Watchmen proved he could operate effectively across crime drama and superhero material, two dominant modes of prestige television, with the same commitment he brought to horror. The trajectory of his career, already showing clear range and consistent quality, was pointing somewhere significant. The industry is full of performers who spend a decade building toward the role that will define them, and Mosley was still in that decade when it ended. His death in July 2022, which was ruled a suicide, added his name to the list of performers lost to mental health struggles that the industry's pressures can intensify, a list that is far too long. His name deserves to be remembered as belonging to a talent that was still becoming, and to a life that mattered every bit as much as the career he was building around it. 20 lives, 20 careers, that shaped what we watched for the better part of a century, and far too many of them we barely paused to celebrate while they were still here. So here's the question worth sitting with. Why do we wait until someone is gone to hand them the recognition they earned in life? Do the pressures of Hollywood quietly fail the very people who give it everything? Or is remembering, even late, still worth doing? Tell us honestly in the comments. Which of these names did you never know we lost? And which loss still stays with you? Every comment keeps their stories alive a little longer. And subscribe to Secret Celebrity Stories, where these legends are never forgotten.